Drink it! Just drink it, and this will be easier! Madison Sterling stands over Dorothy Hayes in the dim bedroom. The white porcelain pill bottle trembles in Madison's manicured hand. Dorothy sits crumpled on the floor, her silver locket pressed against her chest. Two men in white uniforms wait near the doorway. One holds a clipboard with papers stamped, "Emergency Psychiatric Admission." The other shifts his weight, uncomfortable. Dorothy's voice cracks. "Please, baby. I'm not crazy. Don't leave me. Please don't leave me." She calls out for Marcus, but he's not there. At least Madison thinks he's not there. Madison's designer dress catches the lamplight as she leans closer, her voice hard now. "You're making this difficult. They're waiting. Just take the medicine." Madison thinks she's won. She thinks Dorothy is alone. She's wrong on both counts. What Madison doesn't know will destroy everything. To understand how we got here, we need to go back 6 weeks. Dorothy Hayes raised Marcus Sterling from the age of 8. She wasn't his biological mother. She was better than that. She was the foster parent who chose to love him when no one else would. She fed him, tutored him, sat with him through nightmares, believed in him when teachers said he'd amount to nothing. Now Marcus is 35 and worth $2.8 billion. His tech company revolutionized cloud security. He built an empire, and he made sure Dorothy had a home in his Connecticut mansion in the West Wing overlooking the garden she loves. 2 years ago, Marcus married Madison Whitmore. She came from old money, the kind that photographs well in society pages. Her family lost everything in 2020 when her father's investment firm collapsed. Madison saw Marcus as her way back up. The day Marcus left for Singapore, he kissed Dorothy goodbye at the front door. "Mom, you need anything, you call me. You're the most important person in my life." Dorothy smiled. "Go build your dreams, baby. I'll be right here when you get back." That night, Madison sat alone in Marcus's study. His laptop glowed in the darkness. She had the password. She opened a folder labeled Estate Planning Documents. Her eyes moved down the will. Marcus Sterling's assets upon death. Madison Sterling, spouse, 40%. Dorothy Hayes, adoptive mother, 30%. $840 million, plus lifetime residence in the house. Madison's hands shook. She pulled out her phone and called her mother. "Mom, I'm looking at his will right now. $840 million for an old woman who just got lucky?" Her mother Eleanor's voice came through crisp and cold. "If she's declared incompetent before Marcus updates that will, who becomes her legal guardian?" "I would, as a family." "Then you'd control her assets. You understand what I'm saying?" Madison's face hardened. "I understand." She closed the laptop. On the desktop, a folder sat half-hidden behind others. The label read, "Brookhaven Psychiatric Hospital, Contact Info." Madison had started planning 2 weeks ago. She just needed Marcus far enough away to act. Tier 1, Building the Foundation Week. 2 started quietly. Dorothy woke to find her mail missing. She walked to the front gate where it usually sat in the box. Empty. "Maria, did you see my mail?" Maria, the housekeeper, looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. Sterling said she would bring it to you, Miss Dorothy." Madison appeared in the doorway, arms full of catalogs and letters. "Here you go, Mom. The mailman put it in the wrong box. I redirected it to come through so this doesn't happen again." Dorothy took the stack. Something felt off, but she couldn't name it. That afternoon, Madison hosted a charity tea for 25 women from Greenwich Society. Dorothy had helped organize events like this for years. She dressed in her best navy suit and came downstairs. The living room buzzed with conversation. Madison stood at the center, radiant in cream silk. "Ladies, thank you so much for coming. Before we begin, I want to introduce someone special." She gestured to Dorothy. "This is Dorothy. She helped raise my husband when no one else would take him." The room applauded politely. Dorothy stepped forward. I'm Marcus's mother. Madison's smile never wavered. Of course. I meant you were so dedicated to helping him. Truly inspiring when people rise above their circumstances to give back. The woman nodded, missing the insult completely. One of them, Mrs. Whitmore, leaned over to her friend. How generous of the Sterlings to keep her comfortable. Dorothy felt the words like a slap. She excused herself and went back upstairs. In the kitchen, Maria wiped down counters, her hands moving faster than necessary. She had heard everything. She said nothing. The next morning, Dorothy found a business card on her nightstand. Dr. Richard Patterson, Geriatric Psychiatry. A note in Madison's handwriting. Mom, just in case you ever want to talk to someone. No pressure. Dorothy threw it in the trash. But that afternoon, Madison knocked on her door. Mom, I'd love for you to meet Dr. Patterson. He's a friend of the family. Just a casual chat. I don't need a psychiatrist. Of course not. Just think of it as a wellness check. Everyone your age should have one. Dorothy wanted to argue, but Madison's smile was so bright, so concerned. Maybe she was overreacting. The meeting happened 2 days later in the downstairs study. Dr. Patterson sat across from Dorothy, a leather notebook in his lap. Madison and her assistant Jessica sat on the sofa. Mrs. Hayes, I understand you've been experiencing some memory difficulties? I haven't. Madison leaned forward. Mom, remember last week? You forgot about your dentist appointment. I never had a dentist appointment. You did. I showed you the reminder. You said you'd go. Dorothy's chest tightened. Had she forgotten? No, she would remember. Dr. Patterson made notes. It's very common at your age to have small lapses. Nothing to be ashamed of. I'm not having lapses. Madison pulled out her phone, scrolling. Here's the text I sent you about it. You responded, okay. Dorothy looked at the screen. The text existed. She had no memory of it. I don't remember that. Dr. Patterson's pen scratched across paper. We should monitor this. Would you be open to some simple cognitive tests? Dorothy stood up. I need some air. She left the room. Her hands were shaking. Behind her, she heard Madison's voice, soft and concerned. See what I mean, Doctor? It's getting worse. Later that evening, Dorothy sat in her room. She pulled out her jewelry box and removed the silver locket she always wore. Inside was a photograph, yellowed with age. 2 people, a young Dorothy in her 20s, and a man in military dress uniform, his arm around her shoulder, both smiling, her brother Raymond. They hadn't spoken in 15 years, not since their argument about her decision to stay in the foster care system as a provider instead of moving to D.C. with him. She touched the photo gently, then closed the locket. The clasp caught the light as she fastened it around her neck. She didn't notice Madison standing in the doorway, watching. Tier 2. Open disrespect. Week 4 brought the Ashfords to dinner. Robert and Catherine Ashford were major investors in Marcus's company. Madison spent all day preparing the house. Dorothy came downstairs at 6 in a burgundy dress she'd been saving. The dining room table gleamed with crystal and silver. Madison appeared in the hallway, her face tight. Mom, what are you doing? Coming to dinner. This is a business dinner. It's going to be very technical, very boring for you. I'd still like to join. The Ashfords arrived. Introductions were made. They sat down at the table, Madison at the head. Dorothy moved toward her usual seat. Madison's voice cut through the room. Mom, you don't belong at this table. Why don't you eat in the kitchen where you'll be more comfortable? The words hung in the air. Catherine Ashford's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Robert shifted in his seat. Dorothy's face went hot. Excuse me? The kitchen, Mom. We're discussing business, adult things. You'll be happier there. Dorothy looked at the Ashfords. Catherine looked away. Robert studied his plate. No one said a word. Dorothy turned and walked to the kitchen. Her hands gripped the counter. Through the doorway, she could hear Madison's voice, bright again. "I'm so sorry about that. Dorothy has been with us since Marcus was a child. She came from a group home situation originally. Marcus rescued her, really. We try to keep her comfortable, but sometimes she forgets her place." Dorothy's breath caught. Group home? She had never been in a group home. She had been a licensed foster parent with a master's degree in social work. Robert's voice. "She has family?" Madison. "Just us. Well, Marcus, really. No one else wanted her. That's why he feels so responsible." The lies stacked on top of each other. Dorothy sat at the kitchen table and ate alone. Maria brought her a plate, eyes red, and whispered, "I'm so sorry, Miss Dorothy." "It's not your fault, sweetheart." But Maria hurried away like the words burned. The next morning, Dorothy tried to use her credit card at the pharmacy. Declined. She called the bank. "Your account has been frozen due to suspicious activity reported by a family member." "What? Who reported it?" "I can't disclose that information. You'll need to come in with proper identification and a family member to unlock it." Dorothy's stomach dropped. She called Madison. "Oh no, that's terrible. I'll look into it right away." Madison never looked into it. Days passed. Dorothy asked again. "Mom, I've been so busy with the charity gala. I promise I'll get to it next week." Dorothy had no access to her own money. She was dependent on Madison for everything now. That same week, Dorothy's friends from church tried to visit. Pastor James Porter and 2 women from the choir stood at the front gate. Security turned them away. "Mrs. Sterling's orders. Mrs. Hayes isn't receiving visitors. Doctor's orders." Pastor Porter called the house. Madison answered. "Pastor, I appreciate your concern, but Dorothy has requested privacy during this difficult time. Her health has been declining. I'll let her know you called." She never told Dorothy. Dorothy's phone line went dead the next day. "Technical issues," Madison explained. "The company is coming to fix it next week." They never came. Dorothy was alone now, completely alone. One afternoon, Dorothy went to her room to find things moved. Photographs shifted, books out of order. Her mother's quilt folded differently. "Madison, someone was in my room." "You probably moved things and forgot, Mom. It happens." "I didn't move anything." Madison pulled out her phone and showed Dorothy her care journal. Entries dated and time-stamped. Dorothy moved furniture at 2 a.m., didn't remember. Dorothy asked the same question 4 times today. Dorothy left the stove on, nearly causing a fire. "I never did any of those things." "Mom, the doctor said denial is part of the progression. We just want to keep you safe." Dorothy felt reality tilting. Were these things true? Was she losing her mind? Tier 3, the public event. Thursday of week 6 arrived. Madison's Cancer Research Gala. 150 guests, local news cameras, a stage set up in the garden with screens and microphones. Dorothy had helped set up that morning, arranging flowers. She assumed she would attend. At 4 in the afternoon, Madison found her getting ready. "What are you doing?" "Getting dressed for tonight." Madison's jaw tightened. "Mom, this is a very sophisticated event. No offense, but you don't fit the aesthetic we're going for." "Marcus would want me there." "Marcus isn't here. I am. And you'll do as I say in my house." Dorothy met her eyes. "I'm going." Madison's face went cold. "Fine, but don't embarrass me." The gala began at 7. Guests arrived in evening wear, string quartet, champagne. Dorothy stood near the back in her best dress, watching. Madison took the stage at 8. The lights focused on her. She spoke about family values, about giving back, about lifting up those less fortunate. "And speaking of lifting people up, I want to bring someone special to the stage." Dorothy's heart lifted for a moment. Maybe Madison was trying to make amends. This is Dorothy. She helps around the house. She raised my husband when no one else would take him. We're so grateful for people like her, people who step in when real families can't. The applause was polite, patronizing, like clapping for a child's school play. Dorothy climbed the steps slowly, Madison's hand on her elbow guiding her like she was fragile. Madison continued. Dorothy, would you mind checking on the caterers? I think there's an issue in the back. Dorothy froze. Madison was giving her orders, in front of 150 people, on camera. Someone in the crowd filmed on their phone. Dorothy turned to leave the stage. Her foot caught on the top step. She stumbled, caught herself. Madison's voice rang out, concerned and loud. Oh dear, that's the third time this week. Maybe we should get you checked out. It was a lie, a complete lie, witnessed by 150 people. Dorothy walked off the stage and kept walking. Through the garden, away from the lights. Her chest felt like it was caving in. She found a bench hidden behind the rose bushes. She sat down and broke. Sobs came hard and ugly. She covered her mouth with both hands, trying to stay quiet. Miss Dorothy? Maria stood there, tears streaming down her own face. I should have said something. I should have stopped her. I'm so sorry. Dorothy pulled Maria down next to her. It's not your fault. She has all the power. But Mr. Marcus, he's building something important. I won't destroy his marriage because his wife is cruel. He deserves his happiness. Maria held her while she cried. Neither of them saw the young woman in the catering uniform, filming the whole thing on her phone. The video would be online by morning. Back at the gala, Madison accepted congratulations. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother, Eleanor. Call me now. We need to talk about timing. Madison stepped away from the crowd, phone pressed to her ear. What's wrong? Eleanor's voice was sharp. I got a call from someone running background checks. They asked about Dorothy Hayes. Who's looking into her? I don't know. Why would anyone? Find out and move faster. If someone's digging, you're running out of time. Madison hung up. Her hand shook slightly. She looked back at the party, at all the smiling faces, at the cameras recording everything. She had to finish this. Now. Friday morning, Maria arrived for work at 7. Madison met her at the staff entrance. Come with me. They walked to Madison's office. An envelope sat on the desk. You're fired. Maria's face went pale. What? Why? Theft of household items. I have documentation. That's not true. I never... Madison's voice dropped to ice. Do you have papers, Maria? Legal immigration papers? Maria's hands started shaking. I know you don't. I've known for months. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to take this severance check, and you're going to leave quietly. If you make trouble, if you say one word to Dorothy or Marcus, I make one phone call. Immigration and Customs Enforcement shows up at your apartment. Your whole family gets deported. Do you understand? Tears spilled down Maria's cheeks. Please, my children were born here. They're American citizens. Then you'd better stay quiet for their sake. Security escorted Maria out within 15 minutes. She didn't get to say goodbye to Dorothy. Dorothy watched from her bedroom window. Maria looked back once, mouthing, I'm sorry, before the gate closed. A new housekeeper arrived that afternoon. Young, early 20s, spoke almost no English. Madison had chosen her carefully. Dorothy tried to make conversation. What's your name? The girl looked nervous. Chen. I'm cleaning now. Do you know what happened to Maria? I do not speak much English. Sorry. She hurried away. Dorothy sat down on her bed. The walls were closing in. That afternoon, she tried to call Pastor Porter. The house phone was still dead. She didn't have a cell phone because Marcus had always said she could use the landline whenever she needed. She went downstairs. Madison sat in the living room with Jessica, reviewing seating charts for another event. Madison, I need to make a phone call. Use your phone, Mom. It's not working. Madison sighed like Dorothy was being difficult. Use mine, then. She held out her cell phone. Dorothy looked at Jessica sitting right there. She couldn't talk freely. Never mind. Dorothy went back upstairs. She opened her closet and moved aside a stack of sweaters. In the back, wrapped in an old scarf, was a flip phone. Marcus had given it to her 3 years ago during a storm when power went out. Just in case of emergencies, Mom. It's always charged. She turned it on. The battery showed half full. She pulled up the only number stored in it besides Marcus. Raymond. Her brother. 15 years of silence. Her thumb hovered over the call button. What would she even say? They'd ended their last conversation in anger. He'd called her stubborn. She'd called him controlling. They hadn't spoken since. She pressed call. It rang 4 times. Then voicemail. His voice, gruff and military precise. General Raymond Hayes. Leave a message. Dorothy's voice cracked. Raymond, it's Dorothy. I know we haven't spoken in 15 years. But I need help. I'm in trouble and I don't know who else to call. Please, if you still care at all, please call me back at this number. She hung up and hid the phone again. 3 hours later, it buzzed with a text. Got your message. On my way. Hold tight. Dorothy read it 3 times. Then she cried with relief. Saturday morning. Madison sat at the kitchen counter with her laptop and phone. She'd barely slept. Her mother's warning kept circling. If someone's digging, you're running out of time. Her phone lit up with a text from Marcus. Honey, I might be home a few days early. Deal closed. Back Monday. Madison's coffee mug slipped from her hand. It shattered on the marble floor. Monday. 3 days away. If Marcus came home and saw Dorothy, if Dorothy told him everything, it was over. The plan, the money, everything. Madison grabbed her phone and dialed Brookhaven. This is Madison Sterling. I need emergency transport tonight. The patient is elderly, showing signs of danger to herself. Ma'am, we need a voluntary admission signature or a court order. I'll sign as next of kin. I'm her legal daughter-in-law and she's living in my house, and I'll pay $50,000 cash if you handle the paperwork quickly and quietly. Silence on the other end. Then, we can have transport there by 10 p.m. Madison hung up. Her hands shook. She was really doing this. She walked upstairs to Dorothy's room. Dorothy sat by the window reading. Mom, I need to talk to you about your living arrangements. Dorothy looked up. What about them? I think it would be better if you moved to a care facility, temporarily, just until we figure out the best long-term plan. No. Mom, you're not well. You need professional help. I'm not going anywhere. Madison's face hardened. You don't have a choice. Marcus will be home soon. I'll talk to him. Marcus trusts me to make decisions about this household. He signed a power of attorney before he left, for all estate matters during his absence. It was true. Marcus had signed it, a standard precaution. He never imagined Madison would use it like this. Dorothy stood up. Get out of my room. Madison left, but she texted her assistant. Jessica, bring the sleep medication from the medicine cabinet. The prescription bottle. Don't let Dorothy see you. At 9 that evening, Madison knocked on Dorothy's door with a glass of water. Peace offering? I'm sorry I got upset earlier. Here, you look tired. Drink this. Dorothy was tired. Exhausted, actually. She took the glass and drank. 15 minutes later, her head felt heavy. The room tilted. Madison? What did you put in that? Just something to help you relax. You'll thank me later. Dorothy tried to stand. Her legs wouldn't cooperate. She stumbled toward the door. Madison blocked it. You're not going anywhere. The transport is coming. You'll go to Brookhaven. The doctors there will agree you need long-term care. I'll be appointed your guardian. and by the time Marcus gets home, it'll all be done. Dorothy's vision blurred. She grabbed the bedpost, pulled herself toward the closet. She needed her phone. She needed to call Raymond again. Call someone. Madison grabbed her arm. "Stop fighting this!" Dorothy jerked away. Her hand caught her jewelry box. It fell, spilling necklaces and earrings across the floor. The silver locket rolled toward Madison's feet. It popped open. Madison picked it up. Inside, the old photograph, young Dorothy with a man in military uniform, medals on his chest, 3 stars on his shoulder. "Who is this?" Dorothy's words slurred. "None of your business." Madison stared at the photo. Something cold crept up her spine. 3-star general. The timing of her mother's warning. Someone running background checks. She snapped the locket shut and threw it on the bed. "It doesn't matter. No one's coming to save you." At 10 p.m., headlights swept across the driveway. 2 men in white uniforms got out of a van marked Brookhaven Psychiatric Transport. Madison met them at the door. "She's upstairs. She's had some medication. She might be confused or combative." They followed her up. Dorothy sat on the floor of her bedroom, arms wrapped around her silver locket, pressing it against her chest. "Ma'am, we're here to help you," the first man said gently. "I don't need help. I need you to leave." Madison stepped forward. "She has to go tonight. I have the paperwork." She held out a form with a signature at the bottom. The second man took it, frowning. "This signature doesn't match the ID you showed us for Dorothy Hayes." Madison's voice went sharp. "She has tremors. It affects her handwriting. That's part of the condition." "Ma'am, this looks like forgery. I'm paying you $50,000 to not ask questions. Are we going to have a problem?" The men looked at each other. The first one spoke carefully. "We need her to come willingly, or we need proper medical authorization. We can't just—" "She's going!" Madison's control snapped. She grabbed Dorothy's arm. "Get up! Get up right now!" Dorothy didn't move. She clutched the locket tighter. Madison tried to pull her to her feet. Dorothy resisted. They struggled. The locket's chain caught on Madison's bracelet and snapped. The locket fell to the floor. The back popped off. The photograph slid out. Madison stared at it again. 3-star general. Dorothy's brother. The pieces clicked together in her mind, but panic overrode logic. She grabbed a pill bottle from her pocket. "If you won't go peacefully, you'll go sedated. Open your mouth." Dorothy turned her face away. Madison grabbed her jaw, forcing it. "Drink it! Just drink it and this will be easier!" Dorothy's voice cracked, desperate. "Please, baby. I'm not crazy. Don't leave me. Please don't leave me." She called out for Marcus like he could hear her, like he could save her. The 2 transport men stood frozen, horrified. This wasn't right. This was wrong. One of them spoke. "Ma'am, we can't be part of this." The front door opened downstairs. Footsteps in the hallway, quick and heavy. The bedroom door swung open. Marcus Sterling stood there. His eyes took in the scene. Dorothy on the floor, tears streaming down her face. Madison holding a pill bottle. 2 men in white uniforms. The scattered photographs. The broken locket. His voice came out cold and deadly quiet. "What the hell is going on here?" Marcus didn't wait for an answer. He crossed the room in 3 strides and knelt beside his mother. "Mom, look at me. Are you hurt?" Dorothy's eyes focused on his face. For a moment, she thought she was hallucinating. "Baby, you're home? You're really home?" "I'm here. I'm right here." He wrapped his arms around her. Madison found her voice. "Marcus! Thank God you're here. Your mother has been having an episode. These men are from Brookhaven. They're here to help." Marcus stood up slowly. When he turned to face Madison, his expression made her step back. "An episode?" "Yes! She's been confused, agitated. Dr. Patterson recommended... Dr. Patterson, the geriatric psychiatrist. Marcus's voice was flat. Yes, he's been monitoring her condition. Stop talking. Madison's mouth snapped shut. Marcus turned to the two men. Who authorized you to be here? The first man held up the paperwork. Mrs. Sterling called us. She said it was an emergency psychiatric transport. She provided signed consent. Let me see that. The man handed over the clipboard. Marcus studied the signature. He looked at Dorothy. Mom, did you sign this? Dorothy shook her head. Marcus held the paper next to Dorothy's driver's license from his wallet. The signatures weren't even close. This is forgery. He looked at the two men. You're taking a woman against her will based on forged documents. That's kidnapping. Get out of my house, now! The second man's face went pale. Sir, we didn't know. Out! They practically ran for the door. Marcus pulled out his phone. Madison lunged for it. Wait, let me explain! He held up one hand, stopping her without touching her. The gesture was somehow more frightening than if he'd yelled. He dialed. Robert, it's Marcus. I need you at the house. Now. Emergency. Robert Carter was his personal attorney. He dialed again. Detective Mills? Marcus Sterling. I need to report an attempted kidnapping and elder abuse. Madison's legs went weak. Marcus, please listen. I said stop talking. He helped Dorothy to her feet and guided her to the bed. He picked up the broken locket from the floor. The photograph had fallen face up. The three-star general smiled up at him. Mom, who is this? Dorothy's voice was small. My brother, Raymond. Marcus stared at the photo. You have a brother? A general? We haven't spoken in 15 years. We had a fight. I called him yesterday, asked for help. He's coming? He said he was. Marcus looked at Madison. Something dark moved behind his eyes. You didn't know about him, did you? Madison said nothing. You thought she was alone. You thought no one would come for her. He walked to his laptop bag and pulled out his computer. His fingers moved quickly across the keys. I upgraded the security system before I left for Singapore. New cameras, cloud storage. You didn't know that either, did you? Madison's face went white. I've been watching the feeds every night. Not everything. Just checking in. He turned the screen toward her. Until last week, when I started seeing things that made me watch more carefully. The screen showed footage. Dorothy at the dinner table. Madison's voice was clear. You don't belong at this table. Another clip. The charity gala. Madison ordering Dorothy around like a staff. Another. Madison on the phone with her mother. If she's declared incompetent before Marcus updates that will, I'd control her assets. Madison collapsed into a chair. I can explain all of this. Can you explain the $2.3 million you've transferred from Mom's trust fund over the past 3 weeks? The room went silent. I have alerts on all family accounts. Every transfer over $10,000 notifies me. I've been tracking where the money went. $50,000 to Brookhaven Hospital, $200,000 to Dr. Richard Patterson. The rest into an offshore account in your name. Madison started crying. I was stressed. You were gone for so long, your mother, she can be difficult. Dorothy spoke quietly from the bed. I was never difficult. I was just there. Headlights swept through the window. A black SUV pulled into the driveway. Then another. Then a third. Marcus looked out. That would be Mom's backup. The front door opened. Footsteps in the hall. Multiple people. An older black man entered first. 70, but still military straight. He wore his dress uniform. 3 stars gleamed on his shoulders. Medals covered his chest. Behind him came a woman in an FBI windbreaker. Then a man in a suit carrying a briefcase. Then another woman with a badge that read, Connecticut Elder Protection Services. The general's eyes found Dorothy immediately. His face crumbled. Dottie. Dorothy started crying again. Ray! He crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry it took 15 years. I should have found you sooner. You're here now. That's what matters. Marcus stood watching them. You're General Raymond Hayes. Raymond nodded, still holding his sister. 3-star general retired, currently serving as an advisor to the National Security Council. He looked at Madison. When my sister calls me for help, I bring resources. The FBI agent stepped forward. I'm Special Agent Torres. We're investigating allegations of elder abuse, financial exploitation, and attempted unlawful detention. The man in the suit spoke next. I'm Robert Carter, Mr. Sterling's attorney. The woman with the badge. Linda Morrison, Elder Protection Services. We take these cases very seriously in Connecticut. Madison looked at all of them. The reality of her situation was sinking in. Raymond released Dorothy and turned his full attention to Madison. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. That made it more terrifying. You thought my sister was alone. You thought she was powerless. You were wrong on both counts. Madison's voice came out as a whisper. I didn't know she had family. You didn't bother to check. You saw an elderly black woman and assumed she had no one, no connections, no value beyond the money she might leave behind. He pulled a folder from his jacket. I've spent the last 24 hours making calls. I know people in every branch of government, every law enforcement agency. When I explained what was happening to my sister, they moved fast. He opened the folder. Dr. Richard Patterson, licensed psychiatrist, currently under investigation for filing false medical reports in exchange for payment. He's been doing this for years, mostly for wealthy families trying to declare relatives incompetent. Madison's face went gray. Brookhaven Psychiatric Hospital, private facility owned by the Whitmore Family Trust. That's your mother's family, isn't it, Madison? The financial records show dozens of suspicious admissions, patients held against their will, families billed for unnecessary treatments. The state licensing board is opening an investigation tomorrow. Agent Torres added, We've also frozen the offshore account, the $2.3 million you transferred from Mrs. Hayes' trust fund. Financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult is a federal crime. It carries 10 to 20 years. Madison started sobbing. I was going to use it for her care. I swear. You've never paid a single medical bill for my sister, Marcus said. Every expense came from my personal accounts. We have the records. Raymond sat down on the bed next to Dorothy. He took her hand. I lost you once because I was stubborn and proud. I'm not losing you again. No one hurts my sister. No one. Marcus looked at Madison. I want you out of this house. Tonight. You have 1 hour to pack personal items only. Everything else stays. Marcus, please, we're married. I love you. You love money. You never loved me. If you did, you couldn't have done this to my mother. He pulled an envelope from his laptop bag. Divorce papers, already filed. You'll be served formally tomorrow. Madison looked around the room at all the faces. No sympathy anywhere. I need a lawyer. You're going to need several, Agent Torres said. Mrs. Sterling, you're not under arrest, yet, but we strongly suggest you don't leave the state. We'll be in touch. Raymond stood. Dorothy needs rest. Real rest. Safe rest. Marcus nodded. Mom, I'm staying with you tonight, right here in this room. I'm not leaving you alone again. Dorothy looked at her son and her brother, 2 men who loved her, who came when she called. I thought I'd lost everything, she whispered. Raymond squeezed her hand. You never lost us. We just lost our way back to each other for a while. But family finds family. Always. Madison stumbled toward the door. She looked back once at Marcus. He didn't look at her. She was already gone. In the hallway, she heard voices discussing next steps, investigation timelines, evidence collection. Her whole life was collapsing. She pulled out her phone and called her mother. It's over. He knows everything. They know everything. Eleanor's voice went sharp. What did you tell them? Nothing yet. But Marcus has proof. His lawyer is here. The FBI is here. Mom, what do I do? Don't say anything without a lawyer. I'll send Thomas Whitmore. He's handled things like this before. Madison hung up. She looked down the hallway at the bedroom where Marcus stayed with Dorothy. She'd tried to erase a woman because she saw her as worthless. Now she was the one being erased. Tomorrow, the real consequences would begin. Saturday morning. The living room of the Sterling mansion filled with people Marcus had summoned. Every staff member sat in folding chairs. Madison's assistant, Jessica, arrived looking terrified. Robert and Catherine Ashford sat near the front. 5 members of Madison's charity board filed in. Pastor James Porter came with 2 women from the church choir. 2 local reporters stood in the back with cameras. Madison sat alone on one side. Her lawyer, Thomas Whitmore, stood beside her chair. Marcus stood at the front with a large television screen behind him. Agent Torres and Raymond flanked him. Thank you all for coming. What happened in this house over 6 weeks needs to be witnessed. It needs to be public. He picked up a remote. The screen came to life. The first video showed the dinner with the Ashfords. Madison's voice rang clear. You don't belong at this table. Why don't you eat in the kitchen where you'll be more comfortable? Catherine Ashford covered her mouth. The video continued. Dorothy walking to the kitchen. Madison's voice through the door. She came from a group home situation. Marcus rescued her. Robert Ashford stood up. I was there. I heard it. I said nothing. I'm ashamed. Catherine stood too. Catherine stood. We both are. Dorothy, we failed you. Marcus played the next clip, the charity gala, Madison calling Dorothy to the stage. The patronizing applause, the order to check on caterers. Madison's lie. That's the 3rd time this week. Mrs. Wellington from the charity board stood. You used our organization. You humiliated that woman in front of 150 people. Marcus switched to audio. Madison's phone call. If she's declared incompetent before Marcus updates the will, I'd control her assets. $840 million. The room went silent. Agent Torres stepped forward. We have evidence that Madison Sterling transferred $2.3 million from Dorothy Hayes' trust fund. The money paid for false medical reports and bribed a psychiatric facility. Financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult is a federal felony. 10 to 20 years in prison. Financial records filled the screen. Bank statements, wire transfers. The evidence was overwhelming. Marcus gestured to Jessica. Jessica has been offered immunity for testimony. Jessica stood, trembling. Madison told me to redirect Dorothy's mail, to block visitors, to screen calls. I should have said something sooner. I'm so sorry. Dorothy spoke quietly. You were afraid. I understand. A video feed appeared on screen. Maria's face, recorded earlier. I saw everything. Mrs. Madison treated Miss Dorothy like she was nothing. She threatened my family, said she'd call immigration if I talked. I have 3 children. I was scared, but I can't be silent anymore. Marcus played one more video. Dr. Richard Patterson in an orange jumpsuit. State your name. Dr. Richard Patterson. What was your arrangement with Madison Sterling? She paid me $200,000 to write a fake psychiatric evaluation. I never examined Mrs. Hayes. I fabricated everything. Marcus turned off the screen. Mrs. Wellington stood. The charity board votes to remove Madison Sterling effective immediately. All in favor? 5 hands went up. Unanimous. Mrs. Sterling, you are no longer associated with this organization. Marcus looked at Madison. The gala video has 8 million views. Your name is now permanently linked to elder abuse. He read from his phone. Disgusting. How could she? Justice for Dorothy. Raymond stepped forward. Mrs. Sterling faces federal charges: financial exploitation, attempted unlawful detention, forgery. If convicted, 15 to 20 years in federal prison. Madison started crying. But my sister has asked that we offer an alternative. Dorothy stood slowly. She walked until she stood directly in front of Madison. You tried to erase me. You thought because I was old and black and quiet that I didn't matter, that no one would care. Madison couldn't meet her eyes. You were wrong, but I remember being powerless. Someone showed me grace when I needed it. She took a breath. So here's your choice. Go to trial and risk 20 years, or accept a plea agreement. Agent Torres read from a document. Plead guilty to reduced charges, 2 years probation, 1,000 hours of community service at elder care facilities, mandatory counseling, full restitution, and a permanent criminal record. Dorothy's voice was steady. I want you to see what you refuse to see. That elderly people matter. That we deserve dignity. Madison looked at her lawyer. He whispered urgently. After a long moment, she nodded. I accept the plea agreement. Agent Torres produced papers. Madison's hand shook as she signed. Each signature was an admission of guilt. You'll report to your probation officer Monday. Your first community service shift starts Tuesday at Sunset Haven. Marcus held up divorce papers. These are filed. The marriage is over. You have 24 hours to remove your belongings. Madison stood on shaky legs. She looked around at all the faces, witnesses to her exposure. She walked toward the door. At the threshold, she turned back. I'm sorry. Dorothy nodded once. Then prove it. Madison left. The door closed behind her. Pastor Porter started clapping. Slowly at first. Then others joined. The Ashfords, the charity board, the staff, the reporters. They were applauding Dorothy. Not for being a victim, for being a survivor, for choosing grace over vengeance. Dorothy sat down heavily. Raymond sat beside her, Marcus on her other side. Is it really over? She asked. The legal part is just beginning, Agent Torres said. But the danger is over. You're safe now. Mrs. Wellington approached. Mrs. Hayes, would you consider joining our charity board? We need someone who understands dignity. Dorothy smiled. I'll think about it. The reporters interviewed people as they left. Catherine Ashford spoke on camera. We failed Dorothy Hayes by staying silent. I hope others learn from our mistakes. Speak up, always. By noon, the house was quiet. Just Marcus, Dorothy, and Raymond remained. Tomorrow would bring legal proceedings, media attention, Madison's community service, the long work of healing. But today, Dorothy was safe. Dorothy believed. Dorothy was valued. And that was enough. 3 months later, Dorothy's suite looked like it always should have. Fresh flowers on the windowsill. Her books were organized the way she liked them. The silver locket was repaired and hanging around her neck. All the locks were removed from her door. Her bank accounts were restored. Raymond had helped her set up independent financial management with advisors she trusted. The $2.3 million Madison stole had been returned with interest. Maria was back, with a raise and a work visa Marcus personally sponsored. She and Dorothy had coffee together every morning in the garden. Pastor Porter visited every Sunday after church. The congregation had organized a dinner in Dorothy's honor. 60 people came. They called her a hero. She called herself lucky. Marcus had created a new position for her, Family Values Advisor to the Board of Directors. It came with a salary, benefits, and real decision-making power. I want your voice in the room, Mom, not in the margins. in the center where it belongs. Dorothy attended her first board meeting the previous week. When she spoke about ethical business practices, everyone listened, not out of pity, out of respect. The media coverage had been intense but eventually faded. Dorothy gave one interview to a major network. She spoke calmly about elder abuse in wealthy families, about how isolation enables cruelty, about the importance of checking on people. If one person watches this and calls their elderly neighbor, then something good came from something bad. The interview was viewed 20 million times. 2 states had already passed legislation inspired by her case. Dorothy's Law, they called it. Stricter penalties for financial exploitation of elderly adults, better protections for their legal rights, mandatory reporting requirements for financial institutions. Dorothy testified before Congress via video call. Raymond sat beside her, holding her hand. No one should have to have a general for a brother to be treated with dignity, she told the committee. Justice shouldn't depend on who you know. It should depend on who you are, a human being. The hearing room applauded. At Sunset Haven Nursing Home, Madison Sterling mopped floors. She started work at 7 a.m. sharp. No makeup, no designer clothes, simple scrubs and practical shoes. Her supervisor was Mrs. Rodriguez, a 55-year-old Latina woman who'd worked in elder care for 30 years. Your shift starts at 7, not 7:15. Yes, ma'am. I apologize. Madison cleaned rooms, changed sheets, helped residents to the bathroom, fed those who couldn't feed themselves. The work was hard and humbling. One resident reminded her painfully of Dorothy. Mrs. Carter, 80 years old, Chinese-American, sharp-minded but physically frail. Madison was cleaning Mrs. Carter's room when she accidentally knocked over a water glass. It shattered on the floor. I'm so sorry. I'm so clumsy. Mrs. Carter smiled gently. Accidents happen, dear. Let me help you. She started to get up. Madison stopped her quickly. No, please, I'll clean it. You rest. You're very kind. Madison felt tears coming. I'm not kind. I don't deserve your kindness. Mrs. Carter studied her face. None of us deserves grace. That's why it's called grace. Madison broke down crying, right there on the floor surrounded by broken glass. Mrs. Carter waited patiently until the sobs quieted. What happened to you, child? I hurt someone, an elderly woman like you. I tried to take everything from her because I thought she didn't matter. And now? Now I understand she mattered more than anything. Mrs. Carter nodded. Then you've learned something. Don't waste the lesson. Madison went home that night and wrote a letter. 3 pages, handwritten, no excuses, just acknowledgement of what she'd done. Apology without expectation of forgiveness. A commitment to change. She mailed it to Dorothy. Dorothy received the letter on a Thursday. She read it carefully at the kitchen table. Marcus sat across from her. Are you going to respond? Dorothy folded the letter and put it in a drawer. Not yet. Maybe someday. Forgiveness is a journey, not a destination. Do you forgive her? I'm working on it. Some days are easier than others. Marcus reached across and took her hand. I should have been here. I should have called more, checked more often. You were building your dreams. I'm proud of you. From now on, you're at the center of my life, not the margins. Dorothy smiled. You always put me there, baby. That's why you installed those cameras. You knew something was wrong. I felt it. I just didn't act fast enough. You acted exactly when you needed to. You saved me. That evening, Dorothy and Raymond sat in the garden. The sun set orange and gold over the Connecticut hills. 15 years we lost, Raymond said quietly. But we found our way back. That's what matters. I'm not losing you again. You won't. I promise. Inside the house, Marcus worked in his study. A photograph sat on his desk now. Dorothy in the center, Marcus on one side, Raymond on the other. Family. The real kind. The chosen kind. The kind that shows up when you call. The kind that matters. 6 months after that night, Dorothy knelt in her garden planting roses. Her hands moved confidently through the soil. Strong hands. Hands that had raised a boy who became a man. Hands that held on to dignity when someone tried to steal it. Raymond visited that afternoon with homemade cookies. They sat on the porch swing in comfortable silence, the kind only family can share. "We lost 15 years," he said, "but we found each other again. That's what counts." Through the window, Marcus worked in his study. Dorothy's portrait hung on the wall behind him, not tucked away, front and center. Respect isn't given because of race, age, or status. It's owed because of humanity. The powerful don't get to decide who matters. Have you ever witnessed injustice and stayed silent? What will you do next time? If this story moved you, share it. Someone needs to hear it. Comment below. Have you seen this happen? 1 in 10 elders experiences abuse. If you see something, say something. National Elder Abuse Hotline, 1-800-677-1116.